On the morning the most feared CEO in town walked into the tiny diner, nobody imagined he'd walk out a different man. He thought he could talk to anyone the same way he talked in his meetings, loud, harsh, never looking anyone in the eye. But the waitress he humiliated, a single mom, exhausted and steady, was hiding something behind the counter that would crack his power, his pride, and his certainty that he understood the world. What she carried wasn't a threat. It was the truth he'd avoided for years. Stay until the end, because one simple reveal can flip the whole story. The thin October rain fell over Millbrook, Tennessee, the same way it always did, persistent, almost annoying, never turning into a real storm. Marcus Hale watched the narrow streets. He swore he'd never step on again through the Uber window. 15 years. 15 years since he'd left that city with a bag of cheap clothes and a silent promise to never look back. Now, at 38, CEO of a tech startup that had just imploded in a financial scandal, he was returning not by choice, but under a court order disguised as a strategic personal retreat. His lawyer was clear: disappear for a few months, let the media cool off, show that you're reflecting on your choices. Marcus hated every word of it. The drivers stopped in front of the Rosewood Inn, a small hotel with a faded red facade that looked frozen in the 80s. Marcus paid, grabbed his Italian leather suitcase, and walked in without a thank you. The lobby smelled like old coffee and pine cleaner. He signed the form, took the key, and went up to his room, where he spent 2 hours lying down staring at the ceiling, ignoring the buzzing notifications on his phone. Hunger beat pride by late afternoon. He went down wrapped in a gray coat, far too expensive for Millbrook, and walked through the empty streets. The city felt smaller, dimmer. The stores, he remembered, had either closed or changed owners. The movie theater had become a thrift shop. The ice cream place where he worked at 16 had turned into a parking lot. But Lou's Diner was still there. The blue and white facade was the same, the neon letters still flickering unevenly. Marcus stopped across the street, hesitating. That place held memories he had buried carefully, faces, voices, broken promises. But the rain picked up, and he didn't have many options. He pushed the glass door. The entry bell chimed. The smell of frying bacon and fresh coffee wrapped around him. The place was almost empty. An elderly couple in a corner booth, a trucker at the counter, and a black waitress in a navy uniform and white apron, curly hair tied in a practical bun, wiping the counter in automatic, exhausted motions. She lifted her eyes when he walked in. For a split second, something crossed her face. Recognition. But it vanished so fast, Marcus thought he imagined it. "Sit wherever you want," she said, voice neutral, professional. Marcus picked a table by the window, far from everyone. He took off his wet coat and grabbed the laminated menu. She approached with a notepad and a pen, and he caught her name tag. Shanice. "Coffee?" she asked, not making eye contact. "Black, and a turkey sandwich. No onions." She wrote it down and turned to walk away. But Marcus couldn't help himself. "You worked here long?" Shanice stopped, turned slowly, and this time her eyes met his. There was something there, deep exhaustion, but also something harder, like invisible scars. "Long enough," she said. He pushed again, not knowing why. "You from here? From Millbrook?" She took a breath, like she was deciding whether it was worth answering. "Born here, never left." A beat. Unlike some people, Marcus frowned. There was something in the way she said that, like she knew more than she should. "Do we know each other?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Shanice gripped the notepad tighter. Her eyes scanned his face, the perfect haircut, the clean shave, the Swiss watch on his wrist, then looked away. "No," she said flatly. "You just have one of those faces." She walked off before he could say anything else. Marcus stared at the rain hitting the window, uneasy. There was something about that woman, something familiar he couldn't or didn't want to reach. He watched her as she served the trucker, laughed at something the man said, refilled his cup with the same tired efficiency. When she brought his sandwich, Marcus tried again. "Sorry if I was, intrusive. I just thought maybe—" "Your sandwich," she cut in, placing the plate down with a light thud. Marcus looked at her, now annoyed. "Look, I was just trying to be polite." "Then be polite," Shanice said firmly. "Eat and go. That's what most people do." She went back behind the counter, and Marcus noticed something in her hands trembled, not from fear, but from something held in, something heavy. He ate in silence, but he couldn't stop watching her. And then he saw it. Behind the counter, almost hidden between napkins and pens, was a folded piece of paper. When Shanice bent down to grab something, the edge of the paper showed for a second, an elementary school drawing, colored with crayons. Marcus felt a tightness in his chest he couldn't explain. Shanice Carter woke up at 5:15 in the morning, like always. The alarm didn't even need to ring anymore. Her body already knew. She got up quietly, barefoot on the cold floor of the tiny apartment she shared with her son, and went straight to the bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror, deep bags under her eyes, messy hair, the expression of someone who'd carried the weight of the world on her shoulders for way too long. 32 years old. Looked 50. She walked into the small room next door. There was Elijah, 7 years old, sleeping curled around a faded stuffed dinosaur. She pulled the blanket over him, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Mommy's coming back soon, baby." She left before he woke up. Better that way. Fewer questions, less guilt. Her shift at Lou's Diner started at 6. Shanice walked through the still dark streets of Millbrook with her bag slung over her shoulder and a thin coat that didn't actually protect her from the cold. She arrived 10 minutes early, as always, and found Lou, the owner, an older white man with a round belly, unlocking the back door. She changed in the cramped employee room, put on the uniform that smelled like old grease even after washing, and started the day. Fresh coffee, wiped tables, organized condiments, everything on autopilot. By 7:30, the diner was full. Truckers, construction workers, retirees ordering the same thing every day. Shanice served them with mechanical efficiency, smiling when needed, refilling endless cups. But her mind was somewhere else. Inside her bag, stored in the employee room, was a red envelope, the final notice from Elijah's school. Late tuition, 3 months. If she didn't pay by Friday, he'd be transferred to the public school across town, the one where kids fought and teachers had already given up. She calculated the bills for the 10th time. Rent, electricity, water, Elijah's asthma meds, food. It didn't add up. It never added up. And then he walked in. Marcus Hale. Shanice felt her stomach flip. 15 years. 15 years, and he still walked like the world owed him space. Older, better dressed, but the eyes were the same. The eyes she had last seen crying inside an old Civic, saying he needed to leave, that he couldn't stay. He didn't recognize her. Of course he didn't. She was just a tired waitress. He was a CEO, a man who appeared in magazines, someone who had forgotten where he came from. Shanice served his coffee, answered with the bare minimum, and went back to the counter. Her hands were trembling. She took a deep breath and grabbed the paper she kept there for months, the drawing Elijah made at school, the one she held like a talisman. The drawing showed 3 people holding hands, him, her, and a woman with long hair wearing a yellow dress. In the corner, in crooked kid handwriting, it said, "Mommy, Auntie Shanice and me." The woman in yellow was Kimberly, Elijah's mother, the woman Marcus had loved and left while she was pregnant, the woman who died of cancer 2 years later, alone, asking Shanice to raise her baby like her own. And Shanice did, every single day since. She looked at Marcus through the counter. He was messing with his phone, irritated, oblivious. He had no idea the son he never met slept in her apartment every night. No idea Elijah sometimes asked who his father was. No idea about anything. Shanice felt both anger and a sadness so deep it hurt to breathe. Lou appeared behind her with a dirty tray. "Shanice, table 4's been waiting 10 minutes. She quickly tucked the drawing away, wiped her hands on her apron, and went back to work. But something inside her had shifted. Marcus Hale was here. After 15 years, he was back, and Shanice knew that sooner or later the truth would explode. She just didn't expect it to happen so soon. When she returned to pick up his plate, Marcus looked at her in a different way, like he was trying to remember something important, something buried deep. "You sure we've never met?" he asked, his voice lower now. Shanice clutched the plate tighter. The drawing was right there, inches away from him, hidden behind the counter. "I'm sure," she lied. Marcus stayed in Lou's Diner longer than he planned, ordered more coffee, then apple pie. Not because he was hungry, but because he didn't want to go back to that empty hotel room, and also because he couldn't stop watching Shanice. There was something about her that unsettled him. It wasn't just the familiarity, it was the way she avoided him, the way she looked away every time he tried to start a conversation, like she was hiding something. The diner started to fill up around lunch. Shanice moved between tables with that exhausted kind of efficiency, balancing plates, taking orders, smiling at regulars. But Marcus noticed the cracks, the hand that trembled when she refilled a cup, the deep breath she took before approaching a table, the way she checked the clock every 5 minutes. He asked for the check. Shanice brought it, set it on the table without a word. Marcus looked at the total and left a $50 bill. "Keep the change." Shanice picked up the bill, looked at him with an expression he couldn't read, somewhere between surprise and contempt, and said, "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's a tip. A tip is 15%. This here? This is guilt." She put the bill back on the table. "Save it for the next place where you think money fixes everything." Marcus felt the heat rush to his face. "Sorry, I was just trying to be nice." "Then be nice for real." "Not with money." Shanice turned to walk away, but he grabbed her wrist. Not hard, just enough to make her stop. "Why are you being so hostile toward me?" Marcus asked, his voice low but tight. "I don't even know you." Shanice pulled her arm back. "Exactly. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me, so stop pretending you do." The diner grew quieter. A few customers glanced over. Marcus stood up, adjusting his coat. "Look, I don't know what your problem is with me, but—" "My problem?" Shanice stepped closer, her eyes shining. "You walk in here with your $5,000 watch and your designer coat, thinking you can buy respect, thinking everybody has to treat you like you're special. But here, you're just another customer. Got it?" Marcus felt something snap inside him. All the frustration from the last months, the scandal, the public humiliation, being forced back into this miserable town. "You don't know anything about me," he said, his voice rising. "Nothing. I came from nothing. I worked until I nearly killed myself to get where I am, and I'm not going to stand here and let some—" He stopped. He almost said it, almost finished the sentence. Shanice crossed her arms. "Somewhat? Someone who serves coffee? Somebody who wipes tables? Somebody who never left this town? Go on, Marcus. Say it. The name." She said his name. Marcus froze. "How do you know my name?" "I didn't tell you my name." Shanice realized the mistake, but it was too late. She looked away, but Marcus stepped closer. "We do know each other. I knew it. I knew there was something." He tried to force his memory, dig through the past. "Where from? School? Did you live here when I lived here?" "Just forget it," Shanice said, her voice shaking now. "No, tell me. How do you know me?" Lou came out of the kitchen. "Hey, everything okay out here?" "It's fine," Shanice answered quickly. He was just leaving, but Marcus didn't move. "I'm not going anywhere until you tell me the truth." Shanice looked around, the customers watching, Lou hovering by the kitchen, the pressure rising. She felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she refused to cry. Not in front of him. Not after everything. "You want to know the truth?" she said, her voice low but sharp. "The truth is, you're just another man who thinks the world spins around him, who disappears the second things get hard, who abandons the people who need him and comes back years later acting like nothing changed." Marcus took a step back, confused. "What are you talking about?" Shanice turned to walk away, but her bag caught on the edge of the counter. It fell, and with it, the drawing. The paper opened on the floor, bright, childish, crayon-colored, with 3 figures holding hands. Marcus looked down, and he saw the woman in the yellow dress, the long hair, the crayon smile. Kimberly. His heart stopped. Marcus picked up the drawing before he even realized he had moved. His hands trembled. He stared at the 3 figures, the woman in the yellow dress, the small child, and another woman beside them. The signature in the corner, crooked and uneven in a child's handwriting. Mommy, Auntie Shanice, and me. Kimberly. The name detonated in his mind like a gunshot. Kimberly Hayes. The woman he loved when he was 23. The woman he left behind when he got the job offer in San Francisco. The woman who cried in the doorway while he loaded his bags into the car, telling him he'd come back, that it was only temporary. He never came back. Marcus lifted his eyes slowly and found Shanice standing a few steps away, arms crossed over her chest as if trying to shield herself. Her face was pale, lips pressed tight, eyes burning with something between fear and defiance. "Where did you get this?" Marcus asked, his voice raw. Shanice didn't answer. "Where did you get this drawing?" he repeated, louder this time. The entire diner froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Silverware stopped clinking. Lou took a step forward, but Shanice raised a hand, signaling she had it under control, even though she clearly didn't. "That's none of your business," she said, trying to steady her voice. "None of my business?" Marcus stepped forward, gripping the paper so tightly he nearly crushed it. "This drawing has her name on it. Kimberly. How do you have this? Did you know her?" Shanice inhaled slowly. "I knew her." "How?" "We were friends." Marcus shook his head, confused, trying to connect dots that didn't want to meet. "Friends. You were friends." He looked again at the drawing, at the child in the middle. "And this child? Who is this?" Silence. "Who is this child, Shanice?" She looked away. "Who is it?" Marcus shouted. His yell echoed through the diner. An elderly woman near the window flinched. Lou started to move toward them, but Shanice stopped him with her gaze. "You don't get to yell at me," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "You don't get to show up here after 15 years and demand answers." "I have every right." Marcus slammed his hand on the nearest table. "If this has anything to do with Kimberly, I have the right to know. Where is she? What happened to her?" Shanice closed her eyes. When she opened them again, tears shimmered there, but so did a rage she had carried for years. "She's dead, Marcus," Shanice said, each word dropping like a stone. "Kimberly is dead. 5 years ago." The world stopped. Marcus felt his knees go weak. He steadied himself on the table. The air sucked from his lungs. "What?" "Cancer. Started in the ovaries, spread everywhere. She lasted 8 months after the diagnosis." Shanice wiped a tear that escaped. "She died alone in a hospital room in Knoxville, asking for you until the very last day." Marcus couldn't breathe. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't know. You never called, never texted, never came back. You vanished like she never existed." "I tried," Marcus yelled. "I tried calling at first, but she didn't answer. I thought she'd moved on, that she was pregnant, Marcus." The silence that followed was suffocating. Marcus stared at Shanice, then at the drawing, then back at her. "What?" "She was pregnant when you left. 2 months. She found out a week after you drove away." Shanice stepped closer, eyes locked on his. "She tried to tell you, called dozens of times, sent messages. You blocked her number." "I didn't block her. I was trying to start over. You abandoned her. You abandoned both of them." Shanice pointed at the drawing. "That child in the picture? That's Elijah, your son. He's 7, and you never knew he existed because you chose not to know." Marcus let the paper fall. His hands covered his face. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. Shanice bent down, picked the drawing off the floor, and held it against her chest. "Now you know. Now you've got your answer. Happy?" She turned to walk away, but Marcus grabbed her arm, this time with desperation, not anger. "Where is he?" Marcus asked, voice breaking. "Where's my son?" Shanice looked at his hand on her arm, then at his face, and for the first time, Marcus saw something different in her eyes. Not anger, pain. "With me," she said. "He's with me. He always has been." Marcus slowly let go of her arm, like the touch itself burned. He stepped back, then again, until his back hit the diner wall. His legs barely held him up. His chest rose and fell too fast. "With me," Shanice repeated, her voice softer now. "Elijah lives with me. I've raised him since Kimberly died." Marcus tried to process the words, but they hit him like they were arriving through fog. Slow, heavy, unbearable. You're raising my son?" "I'm raising her son," Shanice corrected, firm, "because when she was dying, alone in that hospital bed, she asked me to. She begged me, said she had no one left, that her family turned their backs on her when they found out she was pregnant, and you had disappeared." She took a shaky breath. "So I promised. I promised I'd take care of him like he was mine." Lou stepped closer. "Shanice, you want me to—" "No, Lou, it's okay." She looked at Marcus. He was leaving anyway, but Marcus didn't move. He was staring at the drawing in Shanice's hands, those 3 simple crayon figures, so innocent, so devastating. A child he had never seen, a son he never knew existed. "I didn't know," Marcus whispered. "I swear to God, I didn't know. And does that change anything?" Shanice stepped forward, eyes red but fierce. You not knowing changes the fact she died alone? Changes the fact Elijah grew up without a father? Changes the fact I worked double shifts every day to pay his school, his meds, his food, while you were in San Francisco building your empire? Marcus shook his head, desperate. I can't go back in time. I can't fix what I did, but I can be here now. I can meet him. I can help. Help! Shanice let out a bitter laugh. You think he needs money? You think I'm gonna let you walk in, throw some dollars on the table, and walk out feeling better about yourself? That's not it. He doesn't need you, Marcus. Shanice gripped the drawing tighter. He has me, and I'm enough. Marcus felt the words hit like a punch, because he knew deep in his soul that she was right. He had no right to show up now, 15 years later, and demand a place in that child's life, but something inside him refused to accept that. Please, Marcus said, his voice cracking. Please, let me see him, just once. I won't get in the way. I just need to see him. Shanice stared at him for a long moment. She saw the powerful man, the CEO, the tech icon, completely shattered. Part of her felt satisfaction. Part of her felt pity. You want to see him? Shanice asked, her voice low. Then come here. She turned and walked back to the counter, grabbed her phone and swiped through the screen looking for something. Then she came back and held it out to Marcus. It was a photo. A 7-year-old boy, light brown skin, curly hair, a huge smile and bright eyes. He stood in front of a school, holding a blue Spider-Man backpack, waving at the camera. Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. It was Kimberly. The smile was hers. The shape of the eyes was hers. But the shape of the face, that was his. This is Elijah, Shanice said. He loves dinosaurs. He's got asthma, so I always keep his inhaler in my bag. He's shy around strangers, but once he warms up, he doesn't stop talking. He gets good grades, but he hates math. And every night, before he goes to sleep, he asks about his mom. She locked the screen and put the phone away. He doesn't ask about his dad, because he doesn't know he has one. Marcus covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. I ruined everything, he whispered. I ruined everything. Shanice looked at him, the broken man in front of her, and felt something shift inside. It wasn't forgiveness, but maybe it was the beginning of something. You really want to know him? She asked. Marcus lifted his head, eyes red. Yes, more than anything. Shanice took a breath. Then you're going to have to prove it. Not with money, not with promises, with presence, with time, with the truth. Marcus nodded, desperate. I'll do whatever you ask. Anything. Shanice looked at the drawing again, those 3 little figures holding hands, and made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow, she said, 3 o'clock at the park near his school. I'll bring him. You either show up or you disappear for good. There is no in between. Marcus nodded. I'll be there. And Marcus? Shanice held his gaze. If you hurt him, if you disappear again, I swear you will never get another chance. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He lay in the hotel bed staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the weak buzz of the old air conditioner. Every hour that passed, reality settled in a little more. He had a son, a 7-year-old boy he'd never seen, never held, never met. At 2 in the afternoon the next day, Marcus was standing at the entrance of Riverside Park, his hands sweating inside his coat pockets. The park was small, with rusty swings, a faded slide, and a few wooden benches scattered over uneven grass. Kids ran around screaming, parents chatted absent-mindedly, and Marcus felt completely out of place. At 3:05, he saw Shanice walking down the sidewalk, and beside her, holding her hand, was Elijah. Marcus's heart stopped. The boy wore a blue hoodie with a dinosaur on it, worn-out jeans, and Velcro sneakers. His curls bounced as he walked, and he talked non-stop, excited, pointing at something while Shanice answered with patient nods. When they got closer, Shanice squeezed Elijah's hand gently and nodded toward Marcus. Elijah, this is a friend of your mommy Kimberly's. His name is Marcus. Elijah looked up at Marcus with those big, curious eyes, the same eyes Marcus saw in the mirror every day. Hi, Elijah said, shy. Marcus tried to speak, but no sound came out. He crouched down to the boy's height and finally managed to whisper, Hey, Elijah, you knew my mom? Elijah asked, his small voice full of hope. Marcus nodded, his eyes burning. I did. She was amazing. Elijah smiled, and it was Kimberly's smile, completely, fully alive right in front of him. Shanice rested a hand on Elijah's shoulder. "Eli, why don't you go play for a bit? I'll stay here and talk to Marcus." "Can I go on the slide?" "You can. But don't go out of my sight, deal?" "Deal!" Elijah ran toward the playground, leaving Marcus and Shanice alone. Marcus stood up slowly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "He's perfect." "He is," Shanice agreed, crossing her arms. "And he deserves someone who stays, not someone who shows up and disappears." Marcus turned to her. "I'm not going to disappear. I promise. You've made that promise before." "I know." Marcus took a deep breath. "I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know I broke everything, but I'm asking you, let me try. Not as a CEO, not as the guy in the magazines, as a father. Let me learn how to be his dad." Shanice looked over at Elijah on the slide, laughing by himself, happy. She thought about all the nights she held him while he cried, asking why he didn't have a dad like the other kids. Thought about the bills that never added up, the tiredness that never went away, the weight of carrying it all alone. And then she thought about Kimberly, the friend she lost, the woman who trusted her with her last breath. "You're going to have to prove it," Shanice said. "Every day, not with money, with presence." "I will," Marcus replied, steady. "As many times as it takes." Shanice nodded slowly. "Then start now. Go. Play with him. Get to know him. But take it slow. He doesn't know who you are. Not yet." Marcus looked at Elijah, took a deep breath, and walked toward the playground. When he got there, the boy was trying to climb a rope structure. "Need a hand?" Marcus asked. Elijah looked at him, hesitant. "I can do it by myself." "I know you can, but sometimes it's nice to have someone there to hold you, just in case." Elijah thought for a second, then nodded. Marcus held him by the waist, firm but gentle, while Elijah climbed. When he reached the top, the boy shouted, "I did it!" And Marcus smiled, for the first time in months, a real smile. Shanice watched from a distance, her arms still crossed, but something inside her softened. She pulled out her phone and snapped a photo. Marcus and Elijah, side by side at the top of the rope structure. Maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick. But maybe for the first time, Elijah had a chance to know his father, and Marcus, a chance to become the man he should have been from the start. Power isn't in what we shout, but in what we finally choose to listen to. If this story stirred something in you, share it with someone who also needs to remember that every arrogance hides a wound, and every truth can be a new beginning.